Praise the Lord, everybody. God bless you. This is your boy, Dr. Brian Pleasant, standing in with Pastor KK Middleton. We thank God for him. Thank you for watching Icrave TV. We welcome you to be with us on today. We thank God for Pastor Clark and the True Word Network and all that he's doing to do this work in this branch of Zion. So we're going to jump right in. I wanted to bring Pastor Middleton on and get him to talk about a few things. First, I'm going to let him introduce himself and greet you.
Well, greetings, Dr. Pleasant. I am KK Middleton. I'm a resident of Montgomery, Alabama. By profession and vocation, I serve as the pastor of the Sweet Canaan Missionary Baptist Church in Tuskegee, Alabama, and I'm also a professional consultant and entrepreneur.
Awesome, awesome. So listen, before we jump into our topic, let's talk a little bit about this campaign that I hear about that's coming. You're running for mayor of Montgomery. And that is your intent, right?
That is my intent.
Okay.
Yes,
so
the election is in 2019. So,
okay.
But definitely that is my intent. Yes,
okay.
Sir.
Okay. What made you want to run for mayor in 2019 for Montgomery?
I definitely just want to continue to serve all people, not just in the religious sector, but I definitely want to help be a part of the community and help people to develop Monday through Monday. So definitely that is my goal, and I feel that we need more morality even in our municipal sectors of our society.
Awesome. So let me ask this question. As mayor, as a candidate for mayor, what are some things that you see even now that you will tackle once you win with a great victory this campaign for mayor?
My platform deals with the letter C. I use alliteration a lot to try to make it easier for followers to be able to retain. Okay. And one of the main concerns that I have for our city is curb appeal. When I look at the mindset, I hear a lot of people complain about crime, but we also have to take a look at the atmosphere. And one of the things as mayor, I want to help bring attention and raise the standard of the entire city. Right now, we have about 65 to 70% of our city is unattractive, figuratively speaking, and visually when you're riding down the boulevards. It's unfortunate that many people can tell the difference between East Montgomery versus West Montgomery, not because of a street sign, but because of landscaping. And so I definitely want to tackle that. We have money on the books as a city government, over $400,000 in our budget to eliminate those blighted areas, but yet we don't have the enforcement. So I want to be the individual that enforces, either build up the properties or eliminate them, make sure the grass is cut, make sure that the garbage is picked up. And so curb appeal is my biggest first priority, because even as investors, you don't want to come to a community that seems like there's hopeless and that there's no light and invest. We want to be able to draw new investors, so we have to create an attractive city on all sides of town.
Awesome, awesome. So you would be the first black mayor of Montgomery. Is that what?
Some would categorize that, but I want to be the first fair mayor of Montgomery.
Okay. So what do you think that will have? What impact will that have with you being a black male in a racially divided area and the racially divided tones that we see in America at large? How do you think that will impact your campaign?
Well, definitely, I do think that it is time that we show America that the city that is known for civil rights, that we're bigger than just a bus boycott. And I think that there are a lot of people who are very open-minded, who are not insecure, who are not intimidated, who will be able to look beyond the fact, even our white brothers and sisters, they'll be able to see that I'm not just a candidate who has black skin, but my heart is pure, and that I'm here to serve all people. And for those that do have the same skin and who are a part of my same race, they'll be able to see that we don't have to take a back seat and be assistants forever, that we too have the capacity to be out front and lead, and not just push forth a black agenda, but a better agenda for all Montgomery Alabamians.
Awesome. Well, we're excited for you, be praying with you, we support you. I want to go on record saying that I support.
And I'm grateful for that and the Icrave family.
Yes, sir. We definitely support. And I have seen you work behind the scenes even before announcing candidacy on some things. So I'm excited about what God is going to do through you. So just give them some information about your campaign. I don't know if you have a website, social media, whatever that is. Give them that information so they can kind of research and look up some things.
Well, soft spill. If you're on Facebook, you can just follow the page Middleton for Montgomery and prepare yourself for mid-August to actually be officially contacted, and we'll be opening up the floodgates for all of those who are interested to be a part of the community. But Middleton for Montgomery, if you're on Facebook, will definitely be the main social media outlet in which you can follow us and stay abreast of all of the different events that will be coming up.
Awesome. All right, so check that out. I want to segue into some questions and some things that we're going to talk about from a topic standpoint. I asked him to come for two reasons. One, to talk about campaign, but also to talk about social justice. A lot of times when you say social justice to people who don't understand what that is, they don't quite understand. So let's talk about social justice at large, and give definition to that, but also let's give some definition to social justice as it relates to the church. Okay. Us as pastors, why should we be engaged in social justice? Is that in the Bible? Did the Bible talk about social justice? What does that look like? So just help us out.
Well, Dr. Pleasant, following protocol, you requested that we give a definition, first of all, of social justice. And part of my training has been to simplify for the masses. Mm-hmm. And how I would define it in a simple form is the intentional campaign to promote fairness. That is what social justice is, an intentional campaign to promote fairness. Now, when it comes to the church, specifically speaking, the church definitely has to address the injustices that people experience, not just from government and outside of the church, but within the church. And you ask the question about, is it biblical? It depends on which character you want to follow.
Okay.
Because the Bible has different characters who had different agendas. Now, if you are a scribe and Pharisee, then you are one who will continue to keep people oppressed. And you will be the one that will always find the differences in people and justify why they don't have and you do have. But for those few of us that would prefer to follow the teachings of Christ, then we know biblically that he always was about being fair. He was always, not sometime, but all of the time. And in the church, we wrestle because so many people are extremists. And they seek to crucify us. And they are supposed to be a part of us. And so when we look at social injustice, the unfairness, it's not fair that we have saints fighting saints, that we have believers fighting believers, that we have Christians fighting Christians, that we have church members fighting church members, that we have denominations fighting denominations.
Yes,
that to me is the biggest charge and the biggest thing that we need to address when it comes to social injustice in the church, dealing with the unfair treatment to us by us.
Wow. So with that said, why do we even need to engage in social justice? I mean, if it's just one of those things, we can just stop fighting. So what is this engagement, and why is engagement so important? And why is it so important for pastors to really look at this?
When we use the word engagement, a lot of times people get this perception that I got to strap on physical armor in order to address an issue. But really, it's about showing interest and using your voice. When you don't speak up, corruption spreads. It's kind of like this. The number one physical medical plague that attacks most of us that we can all relate to, regardless of our race, religion, or credit rating, is cancer. Every day, somebody's fighting for a cure because we understand at large that if we don't detect it early, if we don't eliminate it, it spreads and it kills us quickly. So it is with unfair treatment. If you don't engage it, if you don't speak about it, if you don't address it, it's going to kill you and your ministry quicker than you can realize.
So if I've never been engaged in social justice, I've never thought about it, I didn't think that this thing existed, what's the first steps that I need to take as a pastor to engage not only myself, but my ministry and my family in this thing called social justice, and why is it important?
Well, you need to study it.
Okay.
Before you go off to war, you have to go through basic training.
Yeah.
And within that, you're going to have a lot of information presented to you. You need to become enlightened. I don't recommend that you become a novice and a vocalist all in the same day. Become a student. Turn on the television and watch something outside of your normal planning. Read, be aware of the local and national news. Look at the crime section, and be a open-minded, critical thinker. That's the first thing I would recommend, is become a student. Many people, because they have been blessed and they live in a gated community and they have their exclusive club, they're really naive about what the majority are experiencing. And so a lot of people have arrived. And because they've arrived, they're really naive.
Gotcha.
And so I don't want us to beat up leaders because they're not actively engaged, but be sympathetic and just ask them if they don't mind, if they can just take 10% of their time and just come on over and observe.
Gotcha.
So that would be the first thing I would recommend. Become a student.
So I guess my question is this, because so many times I see the distance between people who are engaged in social justice and those who are not engaged is empathy or sympathy.
Or lack of it.
Or lack of it, right. Because I may not have experienced, and I grew up in a very crazy life where I saw stuff, drug addiction. I saw a lot of stuff, and I saw the injustices. So my fight for it may be different from somebody who parent was military, and sergeant major, and they got a nanny. So there's some distance there based upon topography and what they have gone through. So how is it that a person can gain a passion for social justice when they have not walked the walk?
This is what I would recommend. If you don't have the upbringing in those unpleasant environments, if you haven't been exposed to that, first of all, thank God that you were sheltered, and just know that you really don't have an alternative. If you don't show interest, it's going to creep over into your community. So even if you're not serving from experience, and if you're not engaging from experience, at least engage out of fear.
And that's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So as a pastor, speaking directly for pastors, I'm a pastor. This is a learning experience for me as well. What's the benefits, I guess, or are there benefits to being engaged in social justice?
It's a lot of benefits. And let's get straight to it. The major benefit that makes sense to all of us, regardless of our race, religion, or credit rating, it's economically feasible.
Okay.
The better quality of standards, the better quality of education, the better quality of healthcare, the more love that the people around you receive, the better of an individual they can become, and it raises their value. And when it raises their value, they become a drawing tool. It adds value to all of us when everybody is sharp, everybody is loving, everybody is educated, everybody is healthy. We become the #1 marketing community. And so we have to realize we all win when everybody raises their standards. We all win.
That's amazing. Let me ask you this. What will it cost me, if I'm engaged in social justice? And I've heard stories of people who are engagers and who are activists and who are other things who work in the social justice market, we'll call it, for lack of words. What will that cost you? If you go back, you have the Martin Luther Kings of the world who had, stuff blown up and, crosses burned in his yard and his family threatened. I don't know if that's the same plight now. But what will that cost me to really be engaged in those things that are corruption in my Jerusalem, my 20-mile radius around where I am?
I will tell you this. If you don't have tact, you will be destroyed.
Okay.
If you don't have tact, if you don't have a strategy, if you don't have a team, if you don't show others who also have influence where it's a win-win for us, you will be blackballed. Okay. You will have a decrease in momentum. You will be isolated. Also, If you're not economically strong yourself, I don't encourage you to jump out here to try to fight on behalf of others. You have to be in a position. The Bible teaches us the blind can't lead the blind.
Wow.
2 dead batteries can't start a car. And if you're weak, you can't pull anyone else up, according to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 13 through 15, Message Bible translation. You cannot raise others if you're still down yourself. So I would advise us, sometimes you have to be a supporting cast behind the scenes and push the people that are strong. But if you have a mortgage, don't get out here. If you have a car note, don't get out here. If you pastor for a conference or a denomination that determines your salary and your placement, don't get out here. If you have a spouse who's timid, don't get out here. If you have young children who really need you and you don't have that salary coming in from other sources, don't get out here. That's what I would recommend. This is not for everybody. This is a big boys game. This is for grown folks.
Yeah.
On all levels.
Yes.
A lot of us need to stay on the porch, do the research, and just support the advocates who are in a position. See, if somebody can pull your coattail by threatening your job and telling you, if you speak up again, if you show up to another rally, we're going to have to terminate you because your image is not in the best interest of our company.
This may not be you.
This may not be your call.
I had this conversation with my fellowship, and I told them as pastors that, you should have influence. Even if you don't have all the resources yet, you should have a certain amount of influence for certain things. I just feel like certain governmental officials should have to go through certain people in the body of Christ before they do anything. So I said to them 2 things. I said, it's ineffective for us to just hold up signs. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter when we don't have the resources or the other things that will support that movement, which has grown and which I have seen be very impactful in some areas. But there also should be influence within your church that you have. I have 2 of my young sons and daughters that I'm training right now. One is going to be a senator. And one has said, hey, I'm going to be a senator. And she is following those tracks now. And one I have had to kind of push from one thing to another thing. And as a spiritual father, I said, hey, listen, while you're trying to major in dance and all this other kind of stuff, this is where we need you. Right. You have the gifting for this. And so we need to see you in some realm of Congress or some other realm of things. And so do you think that is unwise for us, even if we're not actively out, but we should have the influence of other people? My children, one of them is going to be an attorney. And they said, well, he's 4. How are you going to determine that? Because I'm going to make sure that I speak it and that I invest in things that would, yeah. So do you think that's wrong? Is that quote unquote social justice? Because for me, I've gone to prison. When I got out of prison, I've tried to do other things to back those people because though I want to be in the Senate, I know I can't be in the Senate. Does that make sense? Right. So what I do is I push people who can take my voice where it's supposed to be.
There's 2 occupations that we can choose to pursue. Either you can, 1, choose to be the king, or 2, be the king maker.
That's good. That's real good.
It's really letting people know you have options, even as clergy. You can apply to be the king. Come here, David.
Yeah.
David didn't pick himself.
Right.
David didn't put himself in position.
Yes.
Even though he was sharp, he was skilled, he was strong, he was handsome, he was intelligent. But somebody made him king.
Wow, that's good. I question this. There are some people out there that are just extremists, which has done more damage to people who are doing social justice than others. So let's talk about social justice extreme, because there's extremes in everything. When I teach grace, I have to teach grace extreme. Grace extreme is I can do whatever I want to. God gonna cover that. Faith extreme is I'm gonna give all my money for my bills, my rent, my dialysis, my everything to the church house, and God gonna take care of me. That's extreme, right? So there has to be some balance. So let's talk about balance and the extremists that may be there that has juxtaposed some of the impactfulness that we've had in social justice.
Part of my background training in higher learning, I got my first degree in sociology from Troy University. And one of the concepts that they make sure that I understood before graduating from that program was that I had to look at things from a global perspective. When I think about social justice extremists, those are the ones who want to focus on just one particular type of issue or one particular type of victim. That's what I would identify as a social justice extremist. And you won't get what we call in marketing, you won't get what we call the major buy-in when you're focusing on just one demographic.
I got you.
So instead of us, for example, this is what I would recommend to the social justice extremists. If you want to be more effective, let's not focus on things that affect only, specifically, black people.
Gotcha.
If you want the buy-in from those who have the resources, who have the power, who have the pen, focus on things that matter to the masses. Focus on the issues that matter to the masses. Perfect example. What affects every race in the world? Poverty.
Education.
Deal with those issues.
Yeah.
You will get a much quicker response. Instead of trying to promote for black businesses to be open, just promote for better businesses to be open.
Gotcha.
You get the buy-in.
Gotcha.
So that's what I would say to the extremists. Deal with the global issues. Speak the language that everybody can understand, what gives nobody the opportunity to excuse you or exclude you or to ignore you. Because if I'm white, I'm concerned about my white issues. You're concerned about your black issues. But if we talk about the issues that affect both of us, now you have more people at the table.
I had a dialogue with some other philosophers. I have a PhD in philosophy, so I'm always going to look for fallacy in pretty much everything, just by default. That's just, I'm looking for the loophole. And I said to somebody, because he made the comment that there was much fallacy in this loaded statement that because I'm pro-black does not mean I'm anti-white. And he called himself an activist for social justice. But it was one of those extreme things where everything was don't buy from the white people, don't do this, don't do that. And I told him, I said, we're doing more harm than anything. I said, even as a pastor, you know, heaven ain't going to be a black section, a white section, a Mexican section.
Well, and for those who don't know my background, I would be considered a hypocrite if I was ever caught pushing what we call a black agenda, because out of my biological mother's womb, 2 years prior to me being born, was another brother of mine, and his father is white. His grandparents are white. I remember eating at their table in Ohio. And so I can't push an agenda strictly based off of race when I'm interconnected with other people of other races. So I think we have to definitely be sensitive. Yes, we all have issues, but when you study the data, there are people of all races who are suffering, who are being underserved. And if you think about with the drug use, as long as it was being highlighted that blacks were addicted to drugs, there was no government input. But the moment you started talking about drugs are affecting all races, now we have Congress. They're pushing legislation to get assistance.
Wow. I know we're running out of time, but I wanted to try to tackle one or two more things before we give out of time here. Do you feel that social justice generals should do a better job of making sure they tackle every area that affects the world so that they can get a better perception of where to manage social justice? For example, do you need doctors and lawyers in one place? That's health and wellness. Do you need entertainers? When you think about the Monique saga and the Netflix piece that happened, is that a social justice issue? You know, if we move over to education, do you need people who are in education that says, hey, why is it that the schools in these certain communities are not up to par like these other schools? Is it a poly issue or a mono issue?
I really believe this. Some things have nothing to do with being discriminated against. You're just not the best for the job.
Yeah.
I don't care how dark, how light, how white. If you're not the best person, you're just not the best person.
Gotcha.
So we have to make sure that we don't paint with a broad brush and we become so stereotypical. We have to look at things on a case-to-case basis. Because simply thinking that people are automatically supposed to give you an opportunity because of this, or because you're a female, or because you're this, that's not valid. we all have to prove ourselves. And so I definitely think that we do need people to be conscious in every area of life, people to be alert. We do have to have people to speak up, but I will say this for pastors. If you chase 2 rabbits, you're going to lose both. So I will say, become a specialist. Know what you're passionate about and focus in on that. Because you don't want to appear as a busybody and a rambler and a heckler. Now you're a distraction. Now we got to shut you up.
Got you. All right, lastly, give us some examples, maybe 1 or 2 examples that you can give us of an issue that may be known that we can apply social justice engagement to.
I think one of the major issues that is affecting those in the body of Christ and outside of the body of Christ is dealing with sexuality. I do think that we have to have a common understanding and come to some type of happy medium on how we address the injustices of that particular community. Many of them are being discriminated against, but I will argue that even our brothers and sisters who are part of the LGBT community, we have to make sure that we're not using our sexuality as a selling point to define us. So I think we need to stop crucifying them, but I also think that we have to stop trying to use our sexuality as a marketing tool. And I think all parties, government, church, we all need to come together to understand, look, some of us can bring it up a notch and some of us can bring it down a notch. I think that is going to be, when we look at Birmingham, Alabama, we know that it's coming down the pipeline that dealing with sexuality is going to be a major common issue because the new mayor there just recruited and brought onto his team the first LGBT liaison.
Correct.
To help try to create that harmony. It's not going anywhere.
Right.
But it does matter that we treat everybody fair and that those people who are part of that community, don't try to market themselves and think that you're supposed to get special privileges because of your sexuality. Got
it. Well, this was great. We will do this again because that's another area that I think that we should really deal with, because that's an area that many churches are trying to figure out even how to minister to that community. And so maybe we can come back again for a second show.
Thank you for the opportunity.
At some point, man. But this was really good. I pray that this was a blessing to you. If you need any more information, visit drbrianpleasant.com, icraveministries.net.org, .edu as well. And you can find all of that on our website information, on our Facebook pages. But we thank God for Pastor KK Middleton, and we thank God for you joining us on today. And we'll see you back next week the same time. God bless you.